Now, in true ADHD style, it took me 3 attempts and 3 deadlines to try and get this done in time. Jay said he was the second last, I was the third last. It was a competition. And I'm going, yes, I beat Jay. Oh, I've got that to work as well. This is going well. Okay, so this is a bit about me. I had to put in my motorbike. I always do this because that's my bike run. Use my sanity. So I do a lot of things. As you know, the Spectrum Women book we did together, there's 15 of us involved in that book. And it is a really, really good book about women. And I'm also a research assistant at the University of Wollongong, part of the Thriving Now team. And I'm also, I was in a documentary about chameleons, women with autism. So that's a few different things that I do. So ADHD, squirrels, I had to put it in there, hence why I'm wearing the shirt today, squirrels. And if you look at the arm later, it says, feed your soul and feed the squirrels. And I do that all the time. There's always so many squirrels. And I'm glad I did swap with Jay as well with my presentation, because when he presented and everyone was up there, it was like multitudes of squirrels up there and I would have had no idea what I was talking about. I would be too busy watching everyone else. So, what is ADHD? It's a neurodevelopmental condition. In the DSM-5, it was removed from the disruptive behaviour section, conduct disorder, and was added to the neurodevelopmental disorders. And there's lots of big words too. The criteria, clear evidence that symptoms interfere with or reduce the quality of social, academic, or occupational functioning. And I do have a bit of that. So, what type of you with ADHD? So I'm so hyper-focused, I'm staring out the window, but my foot won't keep still. I quite easily daydream, but my foot wants to do something else. Come on. So the inattentive types. So they can make careless mistakes, difficulty sustaining attention, doesn't appear to listen or follow through, struggle with tasks requiring mental effort, loses things. That's a really good one. I don't lose things very well. I always know where everything is, but I know lots of other people go, where are my keys? I'm easily distracted. That very much do. And so make sure I don't go off topic and talk about motorbikes. Forgetful. We can get forgetful when we get so caught up in our minds. The hyperactive type, fidgets. And you'll notice I'll stand here and my foot won't stay still while I'm fidgeting. Restlessness, driven by a motor, and that doesn't necessarily mean the type as in, I can't keep still, run around the room. You can also be driven by a motor internally in your mind. Noisy, no volume control. Very good at that. You get caught up in your conversations and you get really, really, really loud, and then you go, why am I yelling? Struggle with turn taking, especially when you have a really great idea and you just go, I've got to butt in, I've got to tell you this now, this is really, really good. Don't care what you're talking about, I've got to tell you this. And it's quite, that's where that pressure thing, no, I can't hold it, because also, working memory, I'll forget it in 5 seconds if I don't tell you. And impulsive, that goes with that. Combined type is a mix of the above. So adults don't have ADHD, they're just lazy. So how many times we heard that sort of myths? So I'll often sit at my work desk looking over my to-do list, and just a string, staring at it for a long time. I can't decide what to do first, and when I do decide, I can't get started unless it's a task I enjoy. I'll just sit there and stare at the wall a lot, thinking all sorts of distracting thoughts, and feeling like I'm trying to push through a brick wall. That's a very difficult one when you're in the workplace and it's like you've got these really, really uninteresting jobs and you're going, oh, no, I don't want to do this one, I don't want to do this one. Where do I start? Well, I don't want to do any of these ones because they're really, really difficult. So executive functioning. Executive functioning is not a board meeting with lots of good food and wine, but I tell you what, I'll be there in a shot and guarantee I'll be in. So when a person has difficulties with executive functioning, it can affect their ability to organise and get started and stay on a task. Often they can experience a sense of paralysis associated with undertaking a task. Even though they want to get started, they're unable to make any progress, leaving them frustrated and overwhelmed. So this is what we call task inertia. This feeling of a paralysis is referred to, as we said, task inertia involves difficulty in knowing what tasks need to be done first, or where to start as well. So this is a really good example of task inertia, and this is by Kate Ross, who's also one of the Women in the Spectrum Women book as well. I thought it was really simple just to look at this. I know it's not in the workplace, but even just in everyday life, of going, how do I get started on something at home? And I don't want to because I want to do something else first. So I need to vacuum and I need to shower. I don't want to shower until I vacuum because I will get hot and sweaty. I need to get lunch, but I can't leave the house unless I shower. But I can't shower until I vacuum. I'm too hungry to vacuum, so I'll just sit there a while longer and build myself up to vacuum. It's going to be loud and I need to move stuff around. I'm not in the mood for the sensory assault, but I need to vacuum, but I just want to have a shower. And so, as you can imagine, the whole day you're thinking this through, going, I need to do this, and so you don't end up eating, you don't end up having the shower, and you look at the end of the day going, I haven't got anything done. But mentally, you're exhausted because you can't decide what you want to do first. Task inertia in the workplace. So we get overwhelmed because we don't know where to start the job. So we procrastinate, thinking about, which one should I do? We can't make that decision. And then we're avoiding it. And that comes to reduced productivity. So you ask, where do I start? So we need to understand our brains. What is going on in there? Why is it so hard to organise my thoughts? Why am I always distracted? And why am I lost in my thoughts? All my brain wants to keep doing is everything else except it should be. So the prefrontal cortex is at the front here. This part of the brain, I believe it is, I hope it is, unless it moved recently. I had to question myself then, go, where is it? It's part of the brain that does the self-monitoring. It helps us stay on task and tell us what we should be doing, and monitors how long we should be doing something. And quite often, lots of us with ADHD have no idea of time. We can get lost in things really, really easily. We go, all right, we've done only a tiny little bit of something, and it's taken all day, and it's like, what's wrong? So when we have poor executive functioning, we can easily waste hours on one task, or get distracted by the slightest thing. To our work colleagues, we can appear lazy, disorganised, irresponsible, and unreliable. The fact is that we work so much harder and longer than anyone else in the workplace as we desperately try to keep up with the workload. So the major culprits. Dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter. Quite often the misconception is we have a lack of dopamine. It's not. We have the same amount of dopamine as neurotypical people. It's just how we process this dopamine. So we tend to burn it up really, really fast. So we get a reward for that dopamine, it's gone. And so that's why we always need that sort of fix. It affects mood, motivation, movement and attention. The middle word. Now I have phonetic dyslexia. So that word, I thought, how am I going to say this? And I went, gnaw, pine, fright, that'll do. Good enough for me. It can function as a hormone and as a neurotransmitter. So it's synthesised by the dopamine. And what this does, it helps with stress. So if you've got too much of this, which is also noradrenaline, the higher you have of that, the more anxious you get. So I think I've probably got maximum level at the moment with the anxiety. Serotonin. So another neurotransmitter. And the other thing with the neurotransmitters, they're up here. The hormones go around the whole body as well, so it will also affect everything else, not what's just going on in the brain. Serotonin, it affects mood, social behaviour, sleep and memory. Low levels lead to impairment. So you can see with all of these lovely chemicals going on in our brain, just how it affects our ability to function, to know what to do when we have poor sleep, when we also become impulsive and this sort of stuff. So when it's all not working properly together, this is where it comes out, this ADHD. What do squirrels and shiny objects have to do with it? This guy was really cute. We need to get some more Australians and squirrels. Our brains want excitement, and that's basically what it is. It's a case of brain going, I need something to keep me motivated to keep doing this. If I don't, I do not want to do it. I'm just going to go and find something else that's interesting, whether you like it or not. So we end up with the distractions. Something over there looks really interesting, like there's a guy taking a photo of 2 people up the back there with a yellow shirt. Overwhelmed. I'm getting overwhelmed because I've been looking at the person with the yellow shirt. Hey. Because I know I should be talking everyone else that's in the room here, but I find that's more interesting over there because they're not making me so nervous as everyone else. Avoidance. That's what I'm trying to do. Avoid talking about this while I'm standing here, so I'll watch them over there. So at the end of the day, you go, why have I not got anything done? But I'm exhausted. Essentially, your brain is saying, what's in it for me? What's my reward? Self-monitoring. Ask yourself these questions when you're at work. Is this distraction internal or external? Internal, thoughts popping into your head. They could be creative. You could have forgotten some tasks or appointment, forgotten to give your child their lunch when you sent them off to school. You could be thinking about what you're making for dinner. Like, oh, I forgot to get them groceries and all this. And it's like, oh my God, did I park my car somewhere over there? Did I lock the car? Did I lock the windows? All that sort of stuff. Daydreaming. Dreaming about I'm going on holiday at Monaco or something like that. Far more exciting than this job I'm doing. External, windows. That's one thing I'm really bad at because there's lots of great boats out there. There's lots of big windows, so another distraction. Phones. We love social media. Really, it's like it's heaven living in there. Work colleagues. People come up talking to you. When you're hyper-focused, you're going, you just broke my train of thought. Don't talk to me, I've got to do this sort of job. And then you've got to try and get back on task, which you really tried hard to do in the first place. Example of subconscious distraction, doodling. This one I thought about the other day when I was doodling while I was doing this presentation. I thought, is it to help me think about what I'm doing, or is this a distraction and I'm avoiding trying to do this because I'm drawing little pictures? Reduce distractions, so external. Evaluate your workplace for distractions. These could be if you're sitting near a window. Does the wall have signs and posters and all sorts of wonderful things stuck all over them? Email notifications. Do you have them pop up on your screen every 5 minutes in the corner? If you're like me, I get an email like every 30 seconds and I just like, I got no work done when I kept looking at all of them, so I had to turn them off. Social media, obviously, that's always a big distraction. Phone calls, work colleagues, as we said before. Reduce distractions internally. Evaluate what's going on inside your head. Is the task boring? You know, if you're daydreaming of doing something else, like go to Monaco, Grand Prix or something, you have to think, all right, I need to make my job more exciting. Have I forgotten an appointment? This is where you need to think about, I better write my appointments down, I better have a schedule, I better have my phone that tells me when I should be doing appointments. But then it could be a conundrum because you turned your phone off, because you didn't want the distractions to remind you about the appointment, so you can get caught up in this cycle. Are you planning dinner, as we talked about? Are you worried about an external situation, a problem at home, or children, is there a problem at school, or is any of that sort of stuff? All of these distractions take away from what you should be doing at work. Creative ideas pop into your head. These could be work-related, but not to the current task. So you could be dreaming about or thinking about an idea in my head. I know how I'm going to get my boss's job if I do it this way, but you need to do this job that you're focused on first. So, some solutions for external. The windows. Try not to sit near windows if you get distracted by what's going out there in the outside world. On your walls, have them plain if possible. I know even still when you get distracted or daydreaming, staring at a blank wall, I can do really, really well, but it's like what's going on in here, great screen for it. Turn off the emails and the phones while you're working. Avoid social media to the end of the day. I know some say have some social media breaks at lunchtime and that, but I found personally if I turn it off the whole day while I'm working, I won't get distracted by looking at my break going, and then think and worry about being distracted by that particular thing I saw. Put up a do not disturb sign while working. You can do that, but do that really nicely. I've done this before. But my work colleagues got really quite put off by me. I felt people weren't leaving me alone to do my work. So I got one of these little triangle calendars, turned it inside out. Do not talk to me. And I just put that on my desk. They all looked at me and went, oh, she's a bit intense, isn't she? So think of a nice way of doing it. Just go, I've got to work. This is my, I'll come back and talk to me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Internal, find ways to make the task more interesting, create challenges or goals for yourself. So in your head you're going, all right, I've got to get this task done. I'm going to get it done in this amount of time. So you challenge yourself. It could be a case, if I get this task done, I can go out and get coffee and I get a really nice one. Use schedulers to pre-plan appointments, as I said about with your phones, or have them written in a diary. Have lots of visual planners and timers to help you keep on task. Notepads and colour pads, obviously, I use heaps of it. I used to think I could keep it all in here. No, the amount that goes on in here, I could write an encyclopedia. And it's still not enough. So what I do is I get lots of colour pens, and every idea or thought I have, I write them each idea in a different colour. So then they're separated up into different thoughts, so I can pop back at them later. What if I find it hard to stay in one place? If you're the hyperactive type and you need to move around the room, think of some interesting ways to do this if you can in your workplace, depending on the job. If you're sort of like in a labour-intensive job, you're getting that energy burn anyway. But if you're stuck in an office all day, it's like, oh, I can't stay here. So you can go walk around while you talk to someone on the phone, but make sure you're not annoying everybody else in the whole office. Walk over to a colleague instead of emailing or calling them. Break tasks into smaller parts. Take an energy break every hour. Go for a walk around the office or use the stairs rather than the elevator if you're high up in the building. Do push-ups in the lunchroom. Just say you're working out for a triathlon or something. I need to get some extra training in. Time blindness. I love this little meme. I saw this. And this is exactly, I lost time because I was looking at memes and this exact meme come. When your boss thanks you for staying late and to work, but you were just looking at memes and lost track of time. So easy. So why can't I keep track of time? Because we get hyper-focused on tasks and we don't actually, the concept of time just goes out the window. It really does. We'll do marathon days because we're trying to do certain tasks because of our executive functioning that takes a lot longer. So we have these huge days where we're trying to do stuff. So we go late to bed, we need to finish this project, and I'm really good at this. I need to finish this project. 2 o'clock in the morning, I still haven't finished this project. I'll try again tomorrow. You still don't even in some respects get to that point. And running late, I'm really good at that. I was 45 minutes late this morning and I've only stayed across there. How can you be late? I had to do all these other jobs. Tracking time. Now this is an interesting one. An analog clock is so much easier than looking on your watch, or unless it's an analog watch, or on your computer screen, because when you look at an analog clock, you can see the chunks of time. And they give you some visual cue of going, all right, I've used that section of time up. Timers, obviously individual schedules, I've said before. Set us time to stop work no matter how much left is to do. You have to have these downtimes. And it's taken a long time for me to get to it. I'm still practicing it. The 50, might get it by 70, I don't know. But we need to have this downtime to help our brains to recover and get some bit of rest. Let other people help you and delegate. Still working on that one too. But you need to do that. If you can assign a task to someone else that can help you, or even help you work through a task, you'll get through it a lot quicker. Fine-tuning the brain. That'll be a friend of mine I know in a few years. When you have a Formula One brain, you need to keep it finely tuned. So get and connect with a psychologist or an ADHD coach to help you with some strategies and motivation, because they can be really, really good, and keep in contact with them quite often, because motivation we can lose really, really quickly. So you can go and see someone 1 week, next week you've lost the motivation. But if you have continual contact with someone, they go, we can do these different supports, it really does help. Get to know yourself and what type you are, and also what works for you. So if you're the hyperactive type, go after the exercise. If you're the daydreaming type, look at different strategies that will help you there. Exercise, can't recommend that enough, and I really do need to do that myself. and I'm really living up to this ADHD thing. I should be doing all of these things that I'm here, but the exercise, it really does help, and it helps with your mood levels as well, and just helps to give you that reward in your brain too, all the good chemicals that are going on. Eat well, it's another good thing to do. Not sit there while you're in front of the computer eating packets of chips or pasta. It might feel good, but it's not going to be good for your brain. And medication is another one if you choose to do that path, and that's entirely up to you. I'm quite open about it. I take Ritalin for my ADHD, and it does help, and it helps me to keep on task with what I'm doing far more than when I don't. And I've even had people say to me when I've had some time off for it, and go back onto it going, can you please just stay on it? So that's a good indicator it works. Employers, small changes for big gain. You don't have to spend a lot of money doing this. Your ADHD employee is intelligent. Feed their brain, harness their innovative and creative thinking. Challenge them, give them interesting and challenging tasks. You'd be surprised they love to take up that sort of stuff. Rewards for attaining goals, because our brain is always wants that reward thing. You get rewards for what we're doing, we'll keep doing that. Work with your employee, talk to them about what will help them, talk to them about do they need to move to a different place in the building, away from the windows or from distractions, or do you need to install like a little gym or something in the office. Be inclusive of different types of thinking. Change doesn't equal cost. Everyone's needs are different. I found that having toys at their desk that they can fiddle with while they're working often helps people with ADHD. Another one of my clients simply wanted to be able to stand up while she worked. As it turned out, her office had a kitchen with a raised counter where she could go stand, do work anytime she needs. It makes her more productive and it doesn't cost a thing to do. So it's just simple things of what you've already got in the workplace can make a big difference. Teamwork to success. Employers, don't assume your employee is being lazy. So if you see an employee that's struggling, is not keeping up with the workload, talk to them and say, are you okay with this? Is there any problems with the task you're doing, any particular part that you're finding difficult? They may or may not open up to you about what's going on. Oh no, I'm okay. But if you're a good observant employer, you will take the time to have a good chat with them about what's going on. Work together to find solutions as well. Be a truly inclusive employer. An employee, disclosure. This is also up to you too. If you're okay, if you know you have ADHD and you're okay, you're managing it fine, no need to do anything at the workplace to disclose. You may just go to your boss going, oh look, I prefer to work in this type of setting, do you mind if I do this? And quite often they'll say, yes, we'll do this. Talk to your boss. If you're really struggling, again, explain to him what's going on. You need to help them, some supports and this sort of stuff. Learn what works for you. So if you need to bring a whole bundle of pens and planners and put a clock up on your wall, then do that. And work to your strengths. So if you find that you're a really good worker early in the morning, have a chat to your boss going, would you mind if I come into work a couple of hours earlier before everybody else does? Because that way you can work in peace without other colleagues annoying you. And then you can get off early and go off water skiing for the rest of the afternoon. Some literature. Driven to Distraction, that was one of the first books I read over 10 years ago, and it's really, really good. It was written Dr. Edward Hallowell. And it's an excellent book. It's got a lot of case scenarios in there, and it's really quite interesting, witty, and well done book. So you can look at that going, oh, that's me. Fast Minds, that's another one that's a really good one, even if you're thinking you may have ADHD. So I've got ADHD Advantage and Smart But Scattered Guide to Success. There is a whole series of books. There's for adults, there's for the workplace, there's for children. There's a really good series involved in this one. And this is my final screen here. ADHD, I want to leave you with this. So what society thinks. There's a whole bunch of pills. What my teacher thinks has that little pain in the butt in the corner there, he keeps throwing things. What my boss thinks, you're never getting any work done. What my classmates think, you're not intelligent, but we are. What we think, yes we are. We are Superman, I'll be Supergirl. But it's just a different way that we learn and we think, and we just need to harness that power that we have in these minds, and the support of our employers as well, and we can make a really, really good team. So thank you for that.